how believers should think about social media really has everything to do with us. It can be a tool to publish and distribute massive amounts of good things. At the same time, there are tons of potential risks and pitfalls associated with social media.
How should we think biblically about social media intake?
There's one for conviction, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to start with 1 Corinthians 10:23, which says, all things are lawful, but not all things are profitable. All things are lawful, but not all things edify. And we could actually repeat a lot of what I just said about alcohol to guide this conversation about social media, including what's your history with it? What example are you setting for other people? Your self-control or lack thereof as you use social media or engage with it. Whether you're walking in wisdom toward outsiders, the way you use social media. But whenever I get into the conversation of social media with other people, it always goes to that topic of, is social media fundamentally good or is social media fundamentally bad? And I don't think it's either. I think it's as a platform, it's morally neutral. But social media doesn't exist in a vacuum, does it? It exists for the consumer, i.e. us. And that is then the bellwether of, does it bring good or does it bring evil, or how much of each? So how believers should think about social media really has everything to do with us and our hearts and our faculties, our orientation. Jesus said it was out of the abundance of our hearts that our mouths speak. Now we would say it's out of the abundance of our heart that our fingers type, or our thumbs scroll, or our fingers push like, or whatever they all are. I'm actually, despite my age, one who thinks that social media can be used, and even in some cases ought to be used for good. It's like, I think of it like the new printing press.
I'm glad you're saying that, because you're saying this on social media.
I'm saying on social media. I'm talking to a guy that's at the church and another one over there to kind of run our media at the church. But I do think, like the old Gutenberg printing press in the 1450s, that it can be a tool to publish and distribute massive amounts of good things. Sound doctrine, biblical content, just the gospel message itself to the unbelieving scroller. So the gospel can be shared broadly, sound doctrine can be shared broadly, church announcements can be broadcast widely on a larger platform. And I think it's also a great way for a body of believers like at our church or AO right here to stay connected to each other, do announcements and posts like that. And also, of course, to reach the unsaved. So there's all kinds of good that can come through social media. At the same time, and here we go, there are tons of potential risks and pitfalls associated with social media. And I just listed out a bunch of questions I think we ought to at least think through before we fire it up, turn it on, open the app, or as we think about, should I delete the app, pause the app, mute notifications, whatever the case may be. Here we go. Does social media provoke jealousy or envy in me? When I see what other people are doing, what they're up to, what trips they went on, what house they have, that sort of thing. Does social media provoke discontentment in me? Same basic set of facts there. Does social media cause me to lash out in sinful anger? Not just in the comments, but when I go and turn it off and go talk to my friend or spouse about it. Does social media provoke lustful thoughts? And we know that there are things out there that our eyes should not be laying upon, but they're there. Does social media, same topic, lead me into sexual sin? Does social media cause me to lie by being two-faced, meaning I have one persona on the Insta. That's how you say it, right?
Changes every once in a while.
Yeah. And I have one, demeanor or one, personality in person. So, I'm a paper tiger. I'm bold as a lion on social media, but I get in public, in person, and I can barely have a conversation. That's actually a form of lying, because you're representing yourself as being two different people. Does social media take me away from time with the Lord, time in His Word, time with the people of God, time in prayer, all the things we talked about earlier? Does social media cause me to fear man or seek approval of man? I mean, isn't that exactly what it's designed for? To see how many likes you got, how many followers you got, how many people shared, whatever you shared. You just have to weigh all those things. And if your answer to any of those questions is yes, it's time to put the phone down, and it's time to take a break, and it's time to log out, and it's time to ask a friend for accountability, and it's time to reconnect with the Lord and make sure that He is your priority in your life.
Yeah, I love that answer. Love the Lord with all your heart, soul, and mind and strength. Anything else that comes between you and the Lord has to go.
Yep.
And that's hard. Like, I mean, especially when our phones are so addicting, and you get that, of just happiness, dopamine. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. And you feel like you just have to be on your phone. But yeah, those are great questions to ask. If it comes between you and your walk with the Lord, it has to go.
Yeah.
So thank you for that counsel. Also, our book that we're studying, Right Thinking in a Culture of Chaos, has a great chapter on social media, and it talks about how you can't use it to compare yourself to others, and it gives you a false sense of image, a false sense of security. So there's a helpful chapter in Right Thinking in a Culture of Chaos.
Can I say one more thing on that?
Yeah.
It's from that chapter, actually. We have to acknowledge that we weren't designed to be experts in everything, which is what social media ultimately promotes. In addition to all the things I just mentioned, you go on social media and suddenly you're reading about, the fires in Maui, and you're reading about, corrupt government in Chicago, and you're reading about the Reds lost to the Royals today, and you're reading about all these other things. Your mind wasn't shaped by God or formed by God to be that broad-based, where you're trying to learn about everything around the world all at one time. How God really designed you is to be a part of the community you're a part of, to be, as believers, in a part of a church community that you're a part of, to be directly engaged in the lives of other people, and if you're a believer, meaning other believers, not to be so spread thin and so beholden to the urgent of things that don't really affect you, but suddenly you think they do affect you, and that you have to be mindful of everything going on in the world. So there's even that side of it, where because we get spread so thin trying to keep up on everything, we lose sight of what's actually in front of us, and mainly our families, our church families, the car in front of us, if we want to talk about safety. Not from experience. But,
yeah, right.